You trade Shedeur Sanders. You clearly are not sold on him right now. You're not sold on the progress that he's making, even though you're saying, hey, we're happy with where he's at.
I'm going to be livid if it goes down, by the way.
Before, Talk Sports tweeted out 49ers fans make stunning Shedeur Sanders trade demand after major Brock Purdy setback. Talk Sports is a very credible source. They have 2.4 million followers.
What if I told you the Browns are holding on to Shedeur Sanders just to keep him from becoming a star somewhere else? Forget potential. This is turning into a power struggle. And the NFL world is watching it unfold in real time. Because while fans are demanding trades, ownership is pushing for him to start. And rival teams are circling like sharks. The Browns coaching staff seems frozen, either scared to let him fail or terrified to watch him succeed somewhere else. Now, with star quarterbacks going down, tensions flaring in the locker room, and whispers of trade packages involving big names, Shedeur Sanders' future has never looked more uncertain or more important to the Browns franchise. Some insiders say it's a done deal. Others think it's just smoke. But if the rumors are true, this could be the biggest quarterback shakeup of the season.
Here in Shedeur is not even running scout team. He's literally watching everyone play. Bailey Zappi's running scout team. I don't know if that's true. That's what I'm hearing. Why is he on the team? Why is he even here? If that's what you think about, because his jersey is selling, the Haslam's don't need.
So what's really going on? Why is Sanders being iced out of practice reps? And why are the 49ers and Dolphins already preparing offers before the Browns even make a move? It all started with a tweet, but not just any tweet. Talk Sports, with over 2.4 million followers and a reputation for breaking major NFL news, dropped a headline that sent shockwaves across fan communities. 49ers fans make stunning Shedeur Sanders trade demand after major Brock Purdy setback. At first, it sounded like just another crazy fan idea, until it didn't. With Brock Purdy going down unexpectedly, 49ers fans lost confidence in their quarterback room almost overnight. And instead of calling for journeymen or seasoned vets, they locked their eyes on Shedeur Sanders, the young rising QB riding waves of hype, controversy, and potential.
Those comments back a little bit. But when he said, these are going to be tough decisions and you can't always keep everyone, right?
And then he tried making it like,
you trade Shedeur Sanders. You clearly are not sold on him right now. You're not sold on the progress that he's making, even though you're saying, hey, we're happy with where he's at.
I'm going to be livid if it goes down.
The weird part? Sanders doesn't even play for them. He's buried in Cleveland's underused roster, not even running scout team reps. But fans didn't care. They saw talent being wasted and wanted a piece. Some even suggested that Kyle Shanahan, always ahead of the curve, could mold Sanders into the league's next great dual threat. And just like that, social media exploded. Mock trade proposals, hashtag campaigns, speculation videos. Within 48 hours, Sanders' name was trending across NFL Twitter, and not because of anything he did on the field. The 49ers weren't the only ones paying attention either. According to insiders, other teams started inquiring too, quietly, carefully, testing the water. From a single injury on the West Coast, a chain reaction had begun, and suddenly Shedeur Sanders went from a forgotten backup to one of the most talked about young quarterbacks in the league.
I tend to think by Thanksgiving, he'll just potentially be the best quarterback they have, and the fans will be clamoring for him because it's not a very good team and they'll be losing games.
But this wasn't just fan hype. Because inside the Browns facility, something even stranger was going on. And Sanders' lack of playing time was no accident. As trade rumors swirled, people began asking a more uncomfortable question. Why isn't Shedeur Sanders even touching the field in Cleveland? Reports coming out of training camp were baffling. Sanders wasn't running scout team. He wasn't getting backup reps. In fact, Sources close to the team claimed he was barely participating at all, just watching from the sidelines while Bailey Zappi, an emergency signing, handled the scout team snaps. Let that sink in. A quarterback picked up off waivers, possibly for depth, was getting more reps than the guy who was once considered the Browns' most promising long-term option. It didn't make sense, unless something else was going on.
Love to ask him. Now today is Stefanski's day to cop out, which I love.
Yes,
he's
he
smart.
gives the coordinator.
So smart.
Yeah.
Somebody better ask Tommy Rees whether Shedeur's running scout team.
At first, fans assumed maybe Sanders was still adjusting or needed time to develop. But then the rumors came flooding in. A rift between Sanders and the coaching staff, disagreements over how he should be used, and even quiet frustrations from within the locker room about how he was being managed. Some pointed to head coach Kevin Stefanski, who had already made vague comments about tough decisions and not being able to keep everyone. He later tried walking those comments back, but the message had already landed. People started to wonder, is Sanders being benched as part of a slow rollout strategy? Or is someone upstairs trying to hold him back? Because with ownership pushing for Sanders to play and coaching apparently resisting, it no longer looked like a developmental delay. It looked like internal sabotage. And that's when the whispers turned into full-blown trade speculation. Because if the Browns weren't going to use him, why were they holding on so tight? Behind closed doors, things were boiling over in Cleveland, and everyone could feel it. On one side, you had Jimmy Haslam, the Browns' longtime owner, who's gone all in on making Shedeur Sanders the face of the franchise. Sources say Haslam is personally invested in Sanders' development and wants him on the field. Now, not later. Reports claim that ownership believes Sanders is more than ready and could energize a team that's been stuck in neutral for years. But on the other side, head coach Kevin Stefanski and members of the front office seem to be in no rush. They're tapping the brakes, citing the need for patience, development, and the right moment. Meanwhile, they've sidelined Sanders so hard, he's not even getting garbage time snaps or scout team action. It's like a game of organizational tug-of-war, but the rope is Sanders' NFL career. Colin Cowherd, never one to hold back, claimed the Browns are headed toward a breaking point, and fast. He predicted that if losses keep piling up, a reckoning is coming mid-season. And Haslam could force Stefanski's hand to put Sanders in as the starter by Thanksgiving. Cowherd even went as far as saying the ownership group sees Sanders as the future of the team, and that holding him back is creating internal tension too obvious to ignore. This isn't just a rookie versus vet debate anymore. This is a power struggle between the men who sign the checks and the ones calling the plays. And as the weeks tick by with Sanders on the sidelines, it's becoming clear one of these two sides is going to blink first. But while the Browns were busy fighting each other, other teams were quietly making their move. While the Browns scrambled behind closed doors, two NFL powerhouses were already lurking in the background. And they smelled opportunity. First came the San Francisco 49ers, still reeling after Brock Purdy's injury derailed their momentum. While their fan base hit panic mode instantly, something strange happened. The name that kept popping up wasn't a seasoned vet. It was Shedeur Sanders. Fans on X, formerly Twitter, started pushing a narrative, trade for Sanders now before someone else does. It started like fantasy talk, but then media channels picked up the buzz. Insiders reported that Sanders was on the radar in San Francisco. Whether it's because of his arm talent, mobility, or that unteachable it factor, teams clearly see upside the Browns aren't capitalizing on. But they weren't alone. Down in Miami, Tua Tagovailoa's early season inconsistency lit a fire under the Dolphins fan base. Costly turnovers, pressure panic, offensive stalls. By the third week, fans were already calling for change. Some Dolphins fans even went as far as creating mock trades, proposing player-for-player swaps, even high draft picks, just to pry Sanders from Cleveland's grip. NFL commentators started asking the same question. If the Browns won't use him, why not let someone else unleash his potential? Meanwhile, Sanders' stock was quietly rising, without him playing a single down. It wasn't just about performance. It was about timing, leverage, and the idea of what Sanders could be in a system built around him. And if Cleveland didn't move soon, they risked becoming the only ones not cashing in on his value. But then came the twist, one that no one expected, because suddenly, it looked like the Browns were finally listening. As trade rumors hit a fever pitch, the Browns finally responded. But instead of answers, they dropped more questions. Head coach Kevin Stefanski stepped in front of the mic and did what coaches always do when the pressure turns up. Downplay everything. He brushed off the trade chatter, insisted Sanders was developing just fine, and claimed that tough decisions were part of managing any roster. The problem? Those same comments had already been used by him. Roughly a week earlier, Stefanski had flat out hinted at the possibility of moving on from Sanders, stating, "You can't keep everybody. That's just the business." Now he was walking it back like it never happened. But fans weren't buying it. Neither were insiders. Why? Because at the exact time Stefanski was denying any issues, multiple reports surfaced that the Browns had taken Pauls. That's right, front office sources claimed teams had reached out and weren't immediately shut down. One report even suggested that interested organizations were told to circle back after Week 6, which many took as a sign the Browns were preparing to evaluate trade scenarios based on the team's performance. Even more strange, despite all the public talk about development, Sanders still wasn't getting reps. Bailey Zappi still running the scout team. Sanders watching from the sidelines. This wasn't just mixed messaging. It was a contradiction in plain sight. The coaching staff said one thing. The reps pointed to something very different. And every time Stefanski spoke, he seemed just a little more uncomfortable. Like he knew the spotlight was shifting fast. Because now, it wasn't just about a trade. It was about trust. And if this team couldn't get on the same page, it was only a matter of time before something cracked. By this point, it wasn't just a quarterback controversy. The Browns looked like a team at war with itself. On paper, it seems simple. Shedeur Sanders is a raw but talented prospect. The coaching staff wants to develop him. Ownership wants him to play. But inside league circles, insiders didn't see a cautious strategy. They saw a franchise divided at the top. Jimmy Haslam, the billionaire owner who rarely makes public waves, was now allegedly personally involved in backup quarterback decisions, something that almost never happens in modern front offices. Reports say Haslam is all in on Sanders, actively pressuring the organization to give him real playing time. Some even claim he's warned the coaching staff, start preparing to make the switch. And then there's Stefanski, caught in the middle. He's not just resisting pressure. He's actively doubling down on the current roadmap. Delay Sanders' debut, keep him on the sidelines, and ride out the season with quarterbacks the fan base barely believes in. Why? Because to him, and some in the front office, starting Sanders too soon could ruin him. But here's the catch. If the Browns continue losing, Stefanski won't be around to protect anyone. Colin Cowherd put it bluntly. If they're 4-6 by Thanksgiving, and Sanders still hasn't touched the field, that seat's not warm. It's scorching. And fans agree. They're not just frustrated with the team's record. They're furious that their most exciting talent is being hidden while the season slips away. At this point, even a win might not solve the internal conflict, because this isn't just about football anymore. It's about control. And every week that Sanders stays on the bench, That control feels one snap away from slipping. At this point, the Browns aren't just managing a quarterback prospect. They're gambling with the future of their entire franchise. Because let's be honest, if Shedeur Sanders ends up thriving on another team, Cleveland becomes the villain in their own story. The team that had the talent and let it rot. The front office that picked the safe route and watched their season implode anyway. That's not a theory. That's happened before. Just ask teams that passed on Josh Allen, traded away Lamar, or benched Jalen Hurts too long before his breakout. The league doesn't wait around for slow decisions anymore. And Sanders isn't some journeyman signing you stash on the bench. He's a young, marketable, dynamic quarterback in a league obsessed with upside and mobility. Whether or not you believe in the hype doesn't matter. What matters is 30 other teams are watching closely. From a football standpoint, Cleveland can't decide if they're playing the long game or just scared to commit. If Sanders isn't ready, then why sign him in the first place? If he is ready, what in the world are they waiting for? Some insiders believe the Browns are playing it safe because they think a bad start by Sanders could damage his long-term confidence. Others argue that he's already frustrated and would damn near welcome a trade at this point. Either way, standing still much longer might be the riskiest move of all, because if rivals like San Francisco or Miami make a move first and Sanders lights it up, the Browns will be left explaining, not just to their fans, but to their own locker room, why they kept their best weapon on a leash until it was too late. So here we are, weeks of rumors, mounting tension, and a young star caught in the middle of a franchise identity crisis. Is Shedeur Sanders the Browns' future or their biggest missed opportunity? Ownership clearly believes in him. Fans are demanding to see him. Rival teams are circling, but the coaching staff still pulling the brakes. The question isn't just when Sanders will take the field, it's where. And here's the reality. If Cleveland doesn't move soon, they may not get to decide. The league moves fast. Quarterbacks are the centerpiece of every rebuild, every dynasty, every comeback story. If Sanders gets traded and lives up to the hype elsewhere, say, leading the 49ers deep into the playoffs or giving the Dolphins a true dual-threat star, the Browns go down as the team that blinked. But if they hold on, give him his shot, and he thrives, that patience might be remembered as genius. A slow burn success story that started with pressure and ended with a breakout. So what's the right move? Trade him now while the value is peaking? Bet on him to turn the franchise around mid-season? Or continue to stall and risk losing it all? Because this isn't just about football anymore. It's about trust, vision, and whether the Browns can finally stop being their own worst enemy. But now we want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should the Browns finally unleash Shedeur Sanders? Or would a trade actually save his career? And if the 49ers, Dolphins, or another team pulls the trigger, will Cleveland regret ever letting him go? Whatever happens next, one thing's certain. Shedeur Sanders or not. Our wrap-up words will really be important. Moment is coming. The only question left is, where will it happen?